Let's let them in. Here we go. Hi guys. We've got people flowing in. Say hello and let us know where you're from. We'll give everyone a moment to jump on in. I can see Audrey and Beth, Caroline, Jamie. Wow, we've got loads of you jumping in. That's amazing. Sam, where are you jumping in from? So let us know where you're located right now. If it's 1 o'clock, if you're in the UK, or if you're just waking up in New Zealand, or if you're in the middle of your workday. We've got Croydon, Beth from Croydon, lovely. Amazing, guys. Mandy, Stuart. I always feel, I don't know if you guys know who Miss Kim is, but I always feel a bit like Miss Kim. In Australia, there was a kids' TV show, and at the end, she'd look into a mirror and say, I can see Andrew and Sam and Alice and Nathan, and everyone would be like, oh, it's me. And I always feel like going down this list, I start thinking about Miss Kim. God, we've got Cambridge, USA, London, Texas, Stockholm in Sweden, Pennsylvania. Amazing. Guys, while we're giving everyone just a moment to join, thank you so much for joining us. Just a quick plug for next week. This time next week will be the last EA How-To session for November, and I'll be taking a break in December. And it's going to be all things events. I'm going to be chatting with Kate from Venue Scanner. So if you either missed yesterday's session that was with Sam from Eventify, where we were talking all about Christmas parties, socials, team building events, and how all of that's working virtually these days, then jump on, because I'm going to be chatting with Kate from Venue Scanner Wednesday next week. And we're going to be covering all of the kinds of events that they're doing through Venue Scanner. This is also applicable to US and UK. They do worldwide events. So jump on in, and you can just go to eahowto.com and click on the events tab to register for that one. It's another free one, and that one's happening on Zoom. So you don't need to be a member of the Facebook group, although obviously you would want to be, because obviously. Jump on over to eahowto.com and you'll get a link for next week's session. So that's looking like everybody just about is here. So, all right, thank you so much for joining us. I am going to let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves. So let's start with Alice.
Hello, everyone. Some of you may know me already from LinkedIn or from the CWPA club, but basically I founded that last February, and you know, it's sort of gone from strength to strength, and we're doing similar to Exec How To. We do kind of weekly training events and things for the assistant community, and I also work as a PA at Quintet Private Bank.
Brilliant. And if we've got any Canary Wharf PA Club people, then please say hello in the chat. I've already got a question. Please share the name of next week's event. It's really bad if I can't remember the exact name that I've given it, but it is the events, virtual events in 2020 and beyond. And it's on eahowto.com, and just click on the events tab and you'll see it there. And I'll also be posting about it on LinkedIn after this as well. So it's there. Jack, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, I can. So yeah, I'm Jack. I'm the co-founder of Livitay. We are working with Alicia and Truephone, but we're essentially a Netflix for wellbeing. So you can listen, read, watch across 50 different topics of wellbeing, whether that's female health and menopause to healthy recipes daily. And yeah, we're on a mission to essentially make wellbeing inclusive. And so that's, well, I'm not extremely qualified to speak about wellbeing, but I'm as good as I can get with what we're doing at Livitay.
You're pretty qualified, Jack. Livitay has been amazing, and it's had really, really good uptake at Truephone.
That's very kind of you.
Really happy with it. So I feel like you're qualified. It's okay. And
sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, Philippa.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Philippa, or Pip. I'm a training psychotherapist, and I'm the founder of the Circle Line, which is an online therapy and self-development platform. And we work with businesses to help develop and support employees.
Amazing. So this session is going to be all about health and well-being in the workplace specifically. And because most of us online are EAs, it's going to be focused around how assistants can make an impact on their workplace, how you can approach these kinds of things with your exec team if you're not currently getting that kind of exec sponsorship and it's not happening in your workplace, and my mouse has conveniently stopped working. Here we go. Really quick poll that I'm going to pop up. Are you in a workplace that provides services to support employee wellbeing currently? This is an anonymous survey, by the way. It's just a quick one to see where we're at. So we've got people saying, yes, your company does a great job with this. We've got a bit of a mix, occasional, but could use some work, and no, never or rarely. So most people on here have some sort of health and wellbeing initiative happening in their workplace by the looks of it, and a few that have absolutely none. So I'm sure you're going to leave with some really wonderful ideas here. Thanks for answering that, guys. Get rid of that one. So Philippa, can you kick off with what does health and wellbeing in the workplace look like?
Oh, it's a good question. It looks like many things, I think, because there's many aspects to well-being. I think we have our mental health and our self-awareness, social connections through to physical well-being. You know, Jack mentioned recipes, yoga, and sort of exercise. So actually, it's a real spectrum, and I think that's perhaps one of the difficulties when you're looking at what initiative to put in place in your workplace is which one. There's lots of options out there. Budgets are always limited, so what do you pick to make sure people are supported when and where they need it? I think it ranges from sort of the widest sort of rung of the ladder is awareness, just getting people engaged with the subject, getting even the phrase well-being and mental health, like just making that normal. So getting that normalization of the whole subject into your workplace, and then figuring out what initiatives you can and want to put in place that become more bespoke, probably, and a bit more individual.
Yeah, because part of it does depend on the kind of work environment you're in, I guess, as to what that's going to look like for you, and who your colleagues are and the type of industry that you're in. Jack, you mentioned that you've been working with TruePhone, and so in your work with Livitay, what does health and wellbeing in the workplace look like, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so Philippa really nicely touched on the fact that health and there's loads of tools out there that can help you achieve certain goals, but what does health and well-being in the workplace look like in general? And when we at Livitay speak about it, we think it looks like two things. So Pip, really nicely touched on the fact that openness and vulnerability is something that's really encouraged. We call it, the way we phrase it, is a place for positivity, and it's not fake positivity, it's positive openness and positive vulnerability. We know and understand that, especially now when I'm working literally right outside my bedroom, the work and personal lives are so interconnected, it's hard to feel great every day. And so your company, Livitay, whatever organization it is, needs to be there, that shoulder to lean on, or that hand to hold when actually you're not feeling the best that you can. And you should feel comfortable saying that. And then the second thing is we believe diversity is a strength. If the sum has shown us anything, it's that diversity is a massively positive thing. And my background will be different to Alicia's, will be different to Pip's, will be different to Alice's. And so our interests are different, which means how we manage our well-being is different. And so we need to get rid of that one-size-fits-all model and try and encompass as many people as we can with very bespoke ways of managing their well-being. So that's what we think it looks like.
Yeah, and Livitay does a really great job of that. I mean, health and well-being and self-care in general looks very different depending on your needs. So if you're dealing with anxiety or depression or another kind of mental illness, the things that you need to do to take care of yourself may be different to the kinds of thing that the person who's not dealing with that but is in deep financial trouble and having difficulty getting out of it. Your self-care is going to look very different. Or if you have a really unhealthy lifestyle and you're wanting to give up cigarettes and you're wanting to eat better, or if you're wanting to be more active. So it is really, really diverse. Alice, from an EA's perspective, how can EAs make a real and positive contribution to health and wellbeing in the workplace?
I think PAs always tend to be the first responders anyway. So whether that's as a fire warden or a first aider, even simple things such as the toilets being flooded or, the vending machines being stocked up. I think we're the go-to person for things like that anyway. So I think we're sort of key contributors in every area of the workplace. But I think people feel really comfortable coming to us with these issues because, you know, we're reliable, we're approachable, we tend to get the job done. So I think in order to make a positive contribution, I think we do this by, you know, setting an example, so making sure we're promoting happiness and positivity and well-being around the office, speaking out when necessary, and also looking at different initiatives that you know, we can introduce to build morale and provide assistance for anyone that needs it, you know, such as you said that TruePhone are doing. You know, I think it's down to the assistant to be actively seeking things like that to introduce to the team, and, you know, signposting colleagues to the relevant employee assistance programs. And obviously we'll talk about it a bit later, but like the mental health first aid, I think is a really a good way in which assistants can learn skills to actually make a real contribution and sort of direct impact in the workplace.
I think it's easy to forget sometimes when you work closely with the CEO or the executive team that your relationship with the executive team is very different to everybody else's relationship with the executive team. And you're in such a position to bridge the gap between the rest of the company and the decision makers. So in the sense that not everyone's going to feel comfortable walking into the executive's office or the CEO's office and saying, hey, I think we should be doing X, Y, and Z. We should be offering lunchtime meditations or yoga, or this app sounds really good. Whereas you do have that relationship where you can just knock on the door and say, hey, people are talking about this and they would really like to try it. So you're in a really good position where you have your finger on the pulse of the company and you've kind of got one foot in each door, and to bridge that relationship and really bring ideas from employees to the executive team that they may not be comfortable or even in a position to bring up themselves. So I think it's really important to remember that you have that kind of
Power.
relationship that you've got power that not necessarily everybody else does. Mm-hmm. So I'll go to Philippa again. Why is health and well-being in the workplace important? Why isn't it just a personal matter? What's in it for the employee and the employers?
Yeah, I think there's a few strands to that question. I mean, one of them is the risk and the legal responsibility that all employers take. Can't escape that. You are responsible for mental health as much as physical health. So, you know, a claim for stress and anxiety is a reality. It can happen and it can attach large damages. So there is a legal responsibility on all employers to take care of their employees. On the flip side, it's just being human, isn't it? Like having some compassion for the people who are making money for you. I think it's just the decent thing to do, is to be interested and to support the people who are working hard for you. And then thirdly, it's about success. The people working for you, if they're thriving and they're satisfied and there's an open culture that supports each other, they're going to do better for you. It's better for business. It's better for your customers. They're going to listen better and they're going to work more effectively. So in a roundabout way, it will affect your bottom line.
It's amazing that it's something that seems so obvious when you put it like that it's not something that is being given the consideration that is warranted and that it deserves in all workplaces everywhere. You put it like that and it should just be the default.
Absolutely, yeah.
People who are taken care of will work better for you, and also you have a responsibility to ensure that their mental health is taken care of, that they're not being burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Deloitte did a big study this year that showed the cost of mental health issues in the workplace is over £2,000 per year per employee. It's about time that...
so it makes business sense as well. It's not just out of the kindness of your heart necessarily.
No, we hope it's both.
Yeah. So Jack, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Pip really nicely kind of answered the like broad nature of that question. I think if you just think about it like historically, like this is the way we think about it anyways, we try and picture like what did the workplace look like pre-1970, and I'm in no position to answer that question, but from what I've read, it's like I will work somewhere close to my house, like home basically. And then 1970 to 2000 was like the glory days of banking. It's how much are you willing to pay me, and I'll work there and I'll travel there. But now with millennials and my generation entering the workplace, it is, we value experiences over material things. And so in our personal lives and in our working lives. And so we look at it in a way that's we will work in a place where we feel like valued, loved, cared for. And to work in that place, we'll actually happily sacrifice compensation. I'll get paid less just to work somewhere where I like love being every day. And, you know, you can see that just in remote work at the moment, like people wanting to work in remote companies because actually I feel happier working from home than I do in an office space. And so like just I hate talking about it in a business case because it's like we well-beingers have to like stoop down to a level where actually like it shouldn't be business case. As Pip said, it should be about like just I want to leave this world in a better place than the way I found it. And so making people happy should be that anyway. But to attract top talent, like you're going to have to make the place that you work a really incredible place to come and be. And so the way we view it is the next generation of people entering work are just not gonna stand or tolerate for something anything less than that.
And it is just sometimes a reality, depending on the business that you're dealing with, that no matter how much we should do it because it's the right thing to do, that sometimes just talking to them about the bottom line, if that's the thing that gets it across the line and that's what gets these programs in, then sometimes that's, you know, part of the game that you need to play. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments and I'll keep an eye on them and I'll read them out. So Alice, you touched on being a mental health first aider. I didn't know that there was such a thing until I saw you posting about it on LinkedIn. Can you tell us about that role and what's involved?
Yeah, so I'm pretty similar actually. I didn't really know about it until last year when I took the course. But basically it's run by Mental Health First Aid England. It's a 2-day course. They do a youth version, an adult version, and I believe they're now doing armed forces and higher education, I believe, because obviously they're slightly different, you know, how you react to or how you support someone with mental health issues is different depending on the age of that person and the circumstances they're in. You know, obviously armed forces would be more post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. But yeah, so the role of a mental health first aider is basically to be the first response. So similar to physical first aid, where, you know, if there was a car crash or if someone was having a heart attack, you would be trained in delivering CPR and looking after that person until the emergency services arrive. So similarly with a mental health first aid, you would support someone that may be in a crisis. So whether that's a panic attack or it's a psychotic episode, or if someone's feeling suicidal, it gives you the skills to be able to comfort that person, not diagnose. So it's really important that, you know, I stress that it's not teaching you to be a mental health professional. You're not to diagnose people, but it's to give people support and advice on where they can seek help, and basically just, you know, promoting recovery and offering self-help strategies, but basically being that first response before they can seek professional help.
And is there an element of being able to recognize what might be going on and kind of approach people, I guess, if you're noticing a significant change in their behavior and suspect something might be going on with them?
Yeah, exactly that. So as well as obviously dealing with a crisis, they teach you this 5-step action plan called ALGAE, which is approach, assess, assist, which would be, you know, looking out for different signs and symptoms. So the course does take you through the main mental health disorders that we see, so depression, anxiety, eating disorders, psychosis, personality disorder, and it walks you through all the different signs and symptoms that you would see in someone that is suffering with those. So again, it doesn't teach you to diagnose someone. You couldn't look at someone and go, well, you're obviously depressed, but it will teach you how to recognize those signs in yourself and in friends and obviously in colleagues. So it's a really good.
And are you able to, at some stage when you've got a moment, pop a link in the comments to where people can find out how to become a mental health first aider?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll do that now.
Amazing. Jack, this next question was for you, and I think this is kind of what Beth is asking in the comments as well. I was going to ask you what workplaces are doing to increase health and well-being among their employees, some examples. And Beth is saying, what will the workplace look like in 2021 if we're still working from home into the summer, or some of us are still working from home and we have flexible working? What are we not considering? What have we not thought of other than yoga, meditation, etc.? What new practices can we put into place for the new normal?
Yeah, so I think it's a question I've got a brilliant team that are like busy building incredible stuff at Livitay, and so like I have the good fortune of thinking about the future, and so it's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about is what does the future look like, and how can we position our partners or whoever it may be in a place where they're best prepared for that. And I think the future looks like very decentralized and fully flexible. So workplaces will essentially, and I believe that like Silicon Valley or like Facebook, Google, and these companies lead the way, and then the rest of us just follow. And as you've seen, like they've said that we'll go fully remote and we're going to do it until like summer of 2021. I'm not saying every British company is going to do that, but we will see a movement into like full flexibility where whether that's with benefits, like work from home setup. And that doesn't mean like everyone's working remote ever. It just means that people will have the option to come into the office, work from home. And what we'll also see is then like well-being benefits, everything that was in the office translated into how can we deliver that in a fully flexible way? So office snacks or like office food will be translated into like office snack boxes, like deliverable snack boxes, which we're seeing all over the place now. Or well-being products that like weekly yoga in the office will be translated into apps like Livitay, or like Sanctus is a great example of a company that brought coaches into the workplace. Well, that's going to be translated into what Pip's doing, and so and doing everything like virtually. And so we'll see this kind of movement into full flexibility, and it'll be managed in a way that, to answer the best question, in a way that works for the individual. So for me, when I moved to London, like my finances were my biggest stress. And so like financial well-being is now a massive consideration for businesses. How can we prep young people to move on to a housing ladder or to care for their finances? Or for, you know, Jane, my partner, it could be anything from like, as you say, yoga to meditation. So it'll be about managing what works for you.
We've got a couple of people asking about cost, because obviously, particularly somebody who's working for a charity where they don't have that kind of budget. And I think becoming a mental health first aider would be one of the things that is super cost effective and super high impact, in my opinion. Some of the other things are also looking at your existing benefits. So, you know, are you going through and making the most of whatever existing healthcare that you have access to if your company's providing private health? The amount of people who don't know just because they haven't really looked at the policy and have only gone and had health checks because I mentioned that I was going to do it. And they said, oh, where did you do that? And I said, like, this is a £380 Blue Crest health check that's completely covered by our health and wellbeing program, and that they had no idea about. And so I think looking at your existing plans and promoting things that are already there and using them and openly using them, talking about how they're being used, putting it in the company newsletter, just a tip to remind people, did you know that you have access to, it might be X number of counselling sessions that are free of charge, or your men's health check or the women's wellness check, things like that. And services like Liverte, Jack will certainly pop his details in there for you to reach out if you want to as well, that are really, really affordable. And obviously it does depend on your company budget, but there's a lot out there, and particularly being a mental health first aider, I think that's really important. Somebody else in the comments was saying that they quit their job, they were not okay, and nobody asked. And it's horrendous hearing something like that. And I understand, I've been in a similar position many years ago where I clearly wasn't okay at work, but I was very high performing. And anyone who took a moment to really recognize the signs of what I was probably going through would have realized that the fact that I was still in the office every night at 9 or 9:30 p.m. and I was getting in at 7 a.m. probably would have recognized that that's not actually a sign that I was doing super, super well. And so having someone like a mental health first aider in that office, I have no doubt that that would have been really beneficial to me at that time. So I'm really sorry to hear that.
Can I jump in and also add to like EAs and PAs and HR people are always, most frequently, like with everyone that we've spoken to, are the people that are always caring for other people. And so and it's so selfish, but no one else in the company thinks to turn around to the person that's caring for them and go, well, actually, are you okay? And my co-founder currently, he's on mental health leave. He's taking some time off to look after himself. And it kind of struck me in the same way. It's like, oh, James is always asking other people how they are. Why were we never doing the same? And so I feel like it's down to the community of like EAs or HR people to turn to each other and make sure we're asking like, look, are you okay, or how are you feeling? Or because frequently it's not going to be the people that you're being kind to, because they just don't expect it to be so positive.
That's absolutely right. Philippa, can you tell us a little bit about the services provided by the Circle Line?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's really interesting hearing about, when you're not okay. And obviously, as an online sort of counselling, coaching provider, that's what we do. We jump in when people aren't okay. But also we see therapy and coaching as a very proactive thing to do as well. It's very preventative. It's all about building resilience and getting to know yourself, and releasing, whatever it is that's holding you back in the first place, before there is an issue. So there's a lot that we can do for ourselves to stop ever getting to the point of burnout or depression or panic attack. So yes, we really embed ourselves within businesses, and we get onto their Slack channels or into their teams, and help educate, have a counsellor available on for direct messaging. So really accessible, like low entry point, non-threatening, just like have a chat by messaging a counsellor, through to having sessions online by video. So it's that trying to meet people where they're at, really.
And is this something that people can do anonymously? So the company is, I guess, charged and they just get an itemized bill, but it doesn't say who has been taking advantage of the service or anything like that?
Yeah, no, thanks for raising that. A really good point. Yeah, 100%. It's confidential, and that's the difference, I think, between having a partner, a sort of professional partner. I mean, they're kind of trained professionals who can handle anything, and yeah, we can make it completely confidential. So we'll report back to you. You'll be asked about usage. PAs and operational directors are always asked who's using it, and we give that kind of data, but it's completely anonymized, and that's really important because that can be a real barrier for some people. They don't want to go to their manager and say, I'm having a tough time, can I have some counselling, coaching, whatever. That can be, unfortunately, or they fear it's perceived as a sign of weakness. Of course it isn't. Absolutely, it's the opposite. It's a real strength to go and open yourself up in that way, but some people don't see it that way.
And some of it can also be being caused by that manager. So it's
100%.
rather awkward to need to go and discuss that with them.
100%. Yeah. When you've got a dysfunctional relationship. Yeah, exactly. A dysfunctional relationship or a dysfunctional team, you need that external objective person. Yeah.
I know that when I was first chatting with you that you mentioned doing life event kind of kits.
Yeah.
How did that work? I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, so there's key points in, I think, any career, but also personal life that require a bit of extra support or some preparation and preventative measures. So like new parents, for example, if you're having a baby, it's just a really, really lovely supportive thing to do is to give that employee some sessions, give them some support, but also it's a tough time, so preventative and just to help them out if they are having a tough time. So things like redundancy, promotion, new parents, new joiners, perhaps, all those key points in your career and your life where you can benefit from some extra support.
It was really interesting to me to find out that the Circle Line were doing these kind of life events as part of redundancies. And I think particularly at a time like this, it's so important to recognize that sometimes companies really don't have a choice and redundancies have to happen, but that there is a way to transition people into a new phase of their life that doesn't involve just saying, here's your package and now you're cut off, that you can really, I guess, it leaves a much nicer sentiment for how the company has treated you on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we kind of ask is, what's the last thing you want your employee to remember about you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it's unavoidable. Have you handled it well? Have you handled it in a humane, supportive way?
And, what are they going to write on Glassdoor and things like that? Absolutely. If you handled it in a compassionate way rather than just I'm sorry, you're no longer needed kind of a way. Alice, why do you think so many assistants are responsible for championing health and wellbeing in the workplace? And I know we touched on this before, but do you have specific tips for how assistants can take care of themselves as well?
Yeah, so I think I don't necessarily think that we are responsible for championing health and wellbeing, because I think a lot of companies now have a dedicated HR partner or an L&D representative that would ultimately look at and be responsible for, you know, the official kind of EAP, employee assistance programs. But I just think with the nature of our role, and as Jack was saying, you know, we are caregivers, we support and we assist people, you know, so naturally I think we're drawn to trying to please people and make people happy. So, you know, health and well-being is obviously, you know, the most obvious way to make that happen. But yeah, it's really important to look after your own well-being. You know, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, and that is so true. I think quite often assistants put the executives first, which, you know, can make us very effective right-hand support. But yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. So just make sure that, you know, you're checking in on your own personal health and well-being, and taking time out when needed as well.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's really important to recognize that you're not responsible necessarily. Responsible is not the best word to use there for everybody else's well-being. I think the reason we take on so much of it is because we're so visible, and people, as you mentioned earlier, have a level of comfort with us that they don't necessarily have with everybody in the company. So we just kind of end up being the champion of these things a lot of the time as well. And Jack said, it's often the people who are taking care of everyone else that are overlooked. And that's where things like Canary Wharf PA Club and EA How To, building your support network of people who get it, of people who are part of your community that may not necessarily be your direct colleagues, but there are lots of assistant communities out there where I know that in the private EA How To Facebook group, it certainly becomes a place of support for other assistants, because it's a place where you're comfortable posting things, and I also post things anonymously for people when they're going through a particular experience that they would rather have posted anonymously. So I think reaching out to your network and connecting with other people who are in a similar position who get it is really important. Jack, can you tell us about some of the services that are offered by Livitay and how they adapted? For anyone who wasn't here right at the very beginning, I met Jack, I was introduced to Jack by my former CEO, Will, who knew Jack and knew that I was very interested in health and wellbeing in the workplace and suggested we have a chat. And I ended up introducing Jack to TruePhone. And originally it was very much pre-pandemic. We had grand plans for, TruePhone has these spectacular offices in Canary Wharf with a huge games room, and we had grand plans for our yoga mats and our gong sessions that we were going to have at lunchtime. And then March happened. What happened, Jack?
Alicia, you've been with us for the whole ride, for the whole roller coaster that's in the last 6 months. Yeah, so we were like an Airbnb for wellbeing activities, so you could book activities to bring to your team into the office. But that, as Alicia said, we got a full pie to the face in March, and we sat with a company that was functionally useless, and thought, well, what do we do with ourselves? And so we thought, well, we've got all these partnerships with these incredible people. Can we provide like all of the content that they could possibly make in a way that's like really digestible and really easy to consume in a super preventative format? And most importantly, the fact that it's like really cheap. We want to make sure, like, we're in a global pandemic and we're under no illusion about where budgets are being cut. And so as a company, like, we're founded off the back of necessity, like off the back of like having experienced depression and anxiety ourselves. And so we're like, we just want to make sure we get help into the hands of people that need it. And so we took this content and we put it on an app. This, as I said at the start, essentially like a Netflix for wellbeing. So you can listen, read, or watch any content from over 50 wellbeing topics, whether that's female health to like yoga videos to meditations to like breaking down topics like mental health and stress. We partner with great psychologists, therapists to really understand these terms, help you understand them so they're not scary anymore, and then give you the tools to really help improve your wellbeing day to day. And so, yeah, that's what we're now doing with TruePhone, and we're helping companies everywhere to I think, I can't remember who mentioned it, but how to work with charities and or to keep it cheap. There are so many brilliant like services, as Pip said, at the top of the funnel in a very preventative format that help you keep well-being within a budget, because we understand that it can be really expensive, and that's not what we really need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Pip, there's a question in the chat that is related to a question I was going to ask you. Stuart said, I believe a company's culture comes from the top, and in my experience, most of the exec teams are prime candidates for mental illness and turn away from dealing with them. In terms of approaching this and to get buy-in, what tips do you suggest?
Yeah, actually, I just posted in the chat, I saw a question about how do you build the case for investment in mental health? And Deloitte have kind of done that work for us, actually. They did a big report. It was an update in January this year, just before lockdown, all about the cost of mental health issues in the workplace in their myriad forms, and about the return on investment for all sorts of different types of investment. So they've looked at different aspects like counselling versus exercise versus all sorts of other things, EAPs and so on. And that's really useful, and it shows a really healthy return on actually pretty much any investment you make. You know, it's at least 3-to-1 return back. So I think if you want to put financials behind it, that's a really good report to go to. Other than that, I think asking people, actually talk to the team, find out what they want and need, and then get some feedback. And I think EAs, PAs are in a great position. You're like eyes and ears at the company, and you can get some of that feedback, and feedback when people appreciate it, feedback how much people like it.
And trial and error, try things, and be persistent. One thing that I noticed is no matter how great you think some of these initiatives are, it can take quite a while to get other people to warm up to them. So don't feel that because you held 1 or 2 sessions and the attendance rate was quite low, that people just aren't interested and it's not going to take off. I think you almost need to prove yourself that this is something that we're committed to, that we're going to adapt depending on the feedback we get, and really keep pushing it, because I've noticed that with Livitay, I push it all the time, and I agree with that. It comes from the top, trying to get exec sponsorship at the CEO level to encourage people to use these kinds of things. It's kind of like when you're in the office, and a lot of offices make a point of having the executive team leaving on time and making a show of the fact that they're leaving, so nobody feels like they need to be hanging around the office as well, because the exec team are there until 9 o'clock at night. It's a similar sort of idea. You want the exec team to be showing their support of these initiatives. You want to make sure that your CEO is turning up to some of these events, if not all of them. Get different execs to come to different events.
Yeah, actually, on that note, I'd say if you can get the exec team to be having counselling and coaching themselves, that's the biggest
Brilliant.
People barely find it unhelpful. Nearly
exactly. And so before we wrap up, somebody was asking what the name of Jack's company is. It's Livitay, and
it's spelled horribly, and it could be very easily mistaken for the French spelling with an E, a Q, but it's not. It's like live it and then AY. I'm more than happy to put my details in the chat or something to help people.
Yeah, pop them in the chat, because before we go, I was going to say, what's the best way to connect with you if we want to know more? So starting with you, Jack, if people want to find out more about you and Livitay, what's the best way to get?
Yeah, of course. So Livitay is completely free for a trial period. So there's we don't want to be a product that typical perks that force people down their throat. So use us, don't use us. If we're not the right product, go with Pip. If Pip's better, definitely, of course. We're trying to make people happier here, and so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who we use. It's the aim is to help people. So either connect with me on LinkedIn, or I will put my contact details in the chat.
Pip, the best way to get in touch with you about the Circle Line?
Yeah, just posted my details. So we're thecircleline.co.uk. My address is pip@thecircleline.co.uk.
Brilliant.
And we're on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So.
Sorry?
We're on Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Perfect. And I found you on LinkedIn. It was really helpful. I had a good chat with Neil. And Alice, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I think LinkedIn's probably the best avenue for me. There's a few different ways, but I think just find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only one with the Scutchey surname anyway, so if you type my name in, I should pop up.
I will for sure be using that link to find out about doing the mental health first aider course. I think that's really brilliant, and for anyone looking for a cost-effective thing that they can do right away that is about you or your team, I think certainly look into doing that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I've actually got a course next on the 29th. So if anyone wants to jump on, I am running a course in a couple of weeks. So, but yeah, just reach out if you want to get involved.
Oh, fantastic. That's really brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. I will on LinkedIn also post details for how to get in touch with Alice, Jack and Pip. So if you need anything, be sure to reach out. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have our final EA How-To webinar of November and likely of the year, certainly in this format. And it's going to be talking to Kate from Venue Scanner about all things virtual events this year and beyond, whether it's Christmas parties, socials, team building, exec away days, and we're talking all different budgets. So what can you do for 20 quid a head? What can you do for 300 quid? What can you do all the way to the top? So I know that budget's a big concern for everyone right now, obviously, and there's so many creative things that you can be doing for your team socials. So be sure to join that. It's a free webinar. It's going to be happening at 5:30 p.m. London time, and it's on Wednesday next week. Go to eahowto.com and click on the events tab. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. I will see you all on LinkedIn.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.